All
I
right.
can start recording now. We're welcome to begin.
Okay.
I can do roll call vote if you'd like.
Okay. Well, here's first of all, what I think we're going to do here is good morning and welcome. And this is the Outreach and Community Engagement Standing Committee. And kind of let's set the table for those of you that are joining us here, and particularly for those of you in the audience with some housekeeping items. For those of you in the public, please keep your participation on the mute mode. For those of us on the phone or those of you that may be on the telephone, you can go *6, I believe, to mute, and then *6 again to unmute. And we'll first hear from the board and then from the public by either raising your hand, and since it's a small group, you can speak out and there should be no problem, at least from my vantage point, if we move ahead in that direction. Okay, now let me go to what our purpose here is. The purpose of CAB, the purpose of this committee is to assist CAB in gathering and providing information pertaining to the county's efforts in criminal justice reinvestment. Some of our responsibilities is to identify research methods to engage the community regarding initiatives related to the public safety realignment. We are also here to improve public access to information regarding realignment. And we're here to provide membership cultivation and succession planning for CAB. We're going to put an asterisk by that because that's going to be our main purpose today. And then finally here, we're here to organize our annual new member orientation. So with that, I think we can begin. Can we go with the introductions, please? My name's Crawford Carpenter. I've been with CAB for 1 year. Next, we'll go to the board member. Mark, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Mark Thomas. I live in Oakley, so I'm considered East County. I've been with officially with CAB this year, so I'm new. I just was appointed in January. And back to Crawford.
Well, thank you, Mark. And why don't we then now go to, let me see, the first one that joined us, I think it was Scott. Would you introduce yourself, please, just briefly? You're on mute, Scott.
There we go.
Okay.
I always think people that do that are off base, and that was me, wasn't it? So the name is Scott Parsons, and I'm an interested community advisory board candidate. How's that?
Thank you, Scott. And then
That's-
let's, oh, wait a minute, I forgot. Dale, you're a board member. Dale, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Dale Harrington from the Central District, and Mark and I came aboard the same day.
Thank you. And then Lenita?
Good morning, Lenita Mims, and I am a candidate.
Excellent, and thank you. Terry?
Morning, I'm Terry Dunn. I'm a candidate. I feel like I should hold up a sign or something.
Yeah. Okay. Monique?
Hi, I'm Monique Tate with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Thank you, Monique. Dawn?
Hi, Dawn Morrow from Supervisor Diane Burgess's office.
Thank you. Patrice?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Patrice Guillory with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
And finally, the lady that stirs the drink, Nicole?
Nicole Popchek here with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Okay, we want to make sure we'll cover you last, Nicole. Okay, then, let's see where we are. This is going to be a little convoluted today. We're going to have to establish a chair for this meeting. And then after that, we can proceed. Is that the way we want to start out here, Nicole? Or do we want to do the public comment? We want to do all of that.
Yeah, you would just roll through the agenda with any announcements and then.
Yeah,
the,
okay.
mhm. And we'll get to that part on the agenda item 4.
Okay, fine then.
But
Thank you.
you are able to move agenda items around where you see fit if you need to.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Okay, any announcements? We've had the introductions. Any announcements that anybody would like to make? None being heard, we'll move to the next item. Is there any public comment on any item that's under the jurisdiction of this particular board, but not on our current agenda? Seeing no hands, we'll move to item number 3. Let's go to approval of the minutes of our November 16th CAB meeting. That was 2021. I've had the opportunity to go over those. Have you had an opportunity, Mark, to review those, or we can take a moment if you would like, sir? Mark, you're on mute.
Yeah, let's take a moment.
Okay, fine. And Mark, since it's just going to be the two of us, you don't have to go on mute, nor do you either, Dale, since you're on the board, so that we can interact maybe a little easier.
Okay,
All right.
I guess I'll make a motion that we accept minutes.
Thank you. And I'll second the motion. Those in favor, I guess.
So, I can do the roll call vote for you.
Yeah,
but
would you please?
Did we open it up for public comment yet? Have we done that?
No, wait a minute. We haven't. I'm, kind of out of sync here with the formalities. Okay, public comment then? Okay, if there's no public comment, then
I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
yes, would you please?
Crawford,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Nakenya, is that you on the phone?
Progress. Yes, my computer is super slow and I'm trying to actually.
No worries, we're just voting for the record of action right now. If you have a vote. We'll move forward. Motion carries. And then
Okay.
we'll move
Okay,
on to the next item.
Yeah, the next item here is to discuss the subcommittee member roles and duties. By chance, and you may not, I'm getting this from the cold. Do you have like that sheet for outreach and community engagement where it gives our purpose? And I tried to introduce the meeting here with our purpose and what some of our key responsibilities might be appropriate just to do that again. And then we'll talk about the roles and duties. And again, our purpose is to assist CAB in gathering and providing information pertaining to the county's efforts in criminal justice reimbursement. And I covered the responsibilities. And let me give you two of the key ones. Is we want to reach out to the community as a whole, number one. And number two, and most important, is when we have applicants, such as the individuals that have joined us today, we want to make sure we have an opportunity to talk with them, get their perspectives, and pose maybe one or two questions to them. And that's a vital role. Nakinya is the past chair. Nakinya, maybe you could share your perspectives, reflections, etc., of this committee.
Thank you, Crawford. I basically will piggyback off of what you said. I believe that, you know, the public is willing to be a part of what's going on as far as like reintroductory processes. And I would really like to see more of, like, you know, since this is the subcommittee for, you know, outreach, more of a blanket of not only applicants, but people from the public that are willing to be a part of it. Because in my experience, I think that the community efforts really make a huge difference for individuals trying to reintroduce themselves into society. It could be awkward. It's always really good to have people who have been there, and even if they haven't been there, but maybe have an open mind and, you know, helping people feel a part of the community or give them some kind of hope that they can be. I believe that that is kind of the key to stopping the revolving door on top of the resources. So for me, I am, you know, and I'm happy as a member of this committee. And I really hope that everybody applying and wanting to be a part of it can share the same enthusiasm.
Well, Nakinya, thank you. And by the way, Nakinya was our past chair, and Nakinya is the one that guided us through many of the things that we did last year. So you need to be thanked for that. And I know you had some very challenging situations last year, Nakinya. And again, thank you for everything you did. So thank you again. Mark, can you give us your perceptions, what you thought about serving on this particular committee and the role of outreach and community engagement?
Well, I've so far enjoyed the process. I found it an education. I have sat on committees like this before. It's been a while. I'm relearning my Robert rules. I'm glad we have Nicole. She has to point and keep us on track of what we're supposed to do. No, it's been enjoyable. I look forward to more, like finding out what role I could actually do or we can do. I see the words community engagement. So I'm looking for more opportunity to engage the community. That's what I actually like doing. As being a teacher and thing, it's not just academic. It's like, you know, really engaging with people and being involved. Group work is very important. So I do look forward to further. I did enjoy me and Michael. We did visit the public defender, and that was very enjoyable opportunity. So I look forward to more things like that. And that's it. I pass.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, what's interesting, I think you raised a very good point, and we head up the ambassador program. And that ambassador program is where we reach out to CBOs as well as public officials. And that's an opportunity to get feedback, but that's at a different level from what we would call on the ground, boots on the ground. And I know that was an area that McKinney was really concerned about, and that may be an effort. I think we've got the right pieces in place to maybe make a more concerted effort to get involved with more individuals rather than agencies. So that's it for now. Are there any comments from the public, or Dale, as a board member, any comments from you that maybe you could help us with?
Well, I think it's really important that your committee can do educating the community, but also supporting them. So those two elements, I think, are so important, and your committee does a good job in both of those areas.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Any other comments before we circle back? We're going to have to get with Nicole. We're going to have to do something. We're going to have to establish a temporary chair and a temporary vice chair. But before we do that, any comments from any of you that are on this call?
I do see Patrice's hand up, but I also wanted to clarify, it would also be chair, vice chair, and then the recorder who would be actually putting the report out together.
Okay, fine.
That you would be determining that as well.
Okay, Patrice?
Thank you. One other thing I wanted to just add to the conversation is a little bit of what Outreach and Community Engagement Committee has done in years past. There's been presentations that have been conducted. This is all pre-COVID, by the way. So when there were opportunities for members to present at other community groups, in whether that's in the evening or during the day, whether there were other coalitions that were happening that, like one that comes to mind, I believe it's called the Contra Costa Budget Coalition, or Budget Justice Coalition, something to that effect, where it's a group of county residents who all care about the overall counties, how the county's budget overall is spent. And so inroads were made to have some connections with that particular group so that they were aware of how CAB is doing its work around budget transparency, specifically around justice related spending, obviously through AB 109, right? So that was just an example. There were also previous, what we call partners and providers meetings, where CAB chairs were, or CAB members were invited to present to, some of the agencies, some of the CBOs that were contracted to provide services, as well as agencies that are out there in the community that may not provide or may not be funded through AB 109, but still touch the reentry population. And, those were some recruitment opportunities for CAB as well. So that way you have some folks on the board that are familiar with program administration and service delivery for this particular population. So I agree that a good chunk of outreach and community engagement committees, a good chunk of your work is recruitment and really educating the community where you have opportunities to do so about CAB, what CAB does. And I think anytime you're out there in front of others, it's inherently a recruitment effort, right? Because I think once folks are aware of what you do, they're like, oh, how can I be involved? How can I join? When are your meetings? Things like that. So, continue to do the great work. And I do want to also uplift McKinney's leadership as well as yours, Crawford, on this committee, because the CCP has numerous times commended the board in terms of its representation of the community, excuse me. And I like to say this is probably one of the few advisory bodies that I've seen be so community oriented and really staying true to what it is that you are attempting to do in terms of representation. So that speaks directly to the work that came out of this committee to have that level of diversity on the board. So I'll shut up now, but I just wanted to raise those additional points.
No, you can always keep talking, Patrice. Okay, and maybe one very interesting thing here is that we do have a PowerPoint. And again, we go back to the group that Kenya was able to lead. We put a PowerPoint together with talking points. All you have to do is put the slides up. You can tweak the talking points any way you want. So we've got you covered. If you ever want to go to a community group or a governmental group and just say, this is what we're all about. It should probably take anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes, depending on questions, etc. So we already have that available. So without further ado, okay, Nicole, we've got to get to the what is it, the three functions: chair, vice chair, and the recorder or secretary. And then from there, we can go into these applications, because I know we've got people waiting and their time is precious and valuable. So Nicole, how do we want to go through this process for chair, vice chair, and the recording secretary?
Well, it's a very informal process. We're not looking for like a vote, like a roll call vote here. It's just for you guys to discuss amongst yourselves. I think I mentioned to you outside of the meeting that the recorder can be, the recorder is the person who fills out the report out for the highlights of what was accomplished in the meeting, next steps, and any action that we're taking to the full body. And that doesn't have to be someone besides the chair and the vice chair. It could be the chair taking that on. It could be the vice chair, or it could be the additional member that we have. It's up for you guys to decide.
Okay, well then why don't we throw it open? We need to have a chair of this committee. Do we have anybody that would volunteer to be the chair? Kenya, Mark, and Dale, you're on. What about Dale?
Dale is he's not a member. He's a CAB member, but not a member of the subcommittee.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay, since we don't have anybody that's volunteered, I'll volunteer as the temporary chair. And again, I'm going to underline temporary because we've got to get the business of this committee going. So I'll volunteer for that. Are there any other volunteers? And I would gladly step aside. Okay, Nicole, what's our next step then?
I have a question.
So
Dell isn't a voting member. Well, who are the members as of now on this committee that would be able to take on these positions outside of me or Crawford?
Right now, it's Crawford, you, Kenya, Mark, and then Darrell was assigned, but he did not confirm. So at this particular meeting, we are not recognizing that he is a voting member of this subcommittee at this time.
Okay, so basically it's just me and Crawford.
Crawford and Mark.
And Mark, okay.
Well, I suppose I'm in the position to volunteer for the vice chair.
excellent.
But
Thank
that's
you,
what
Mark.
Crawford was asking.
Yes, thank you, Mark. All right, so we've got two filled. Is there a chance, Kenya, that maybe you could assist us? I understand you've got other, challenging obligations. Is there a way maybe you could help us with the recording on a temporary basis?
Yeah, I don't want to commit to that. I think that it's going to be difficult for me to juggle what I have already and trying to meet those demands. So that is why I am stepping back as the chair, and I would like to support where I can, but I do not have the ability at this time to take on any more responsibilities.
Understand.
Just to clarify, it's not minutes or record of action. It's just basically what you guys did for your ambassador program. The highlights of the meeting, and then action that you're taking to the full body.
Yeah, but there's still a deadline during the week. There's still a time crunch on getting everything together and making sure things are communicated to there's things that I don't think I'm able to do at this time.
Hey, no problem. Between Mark and myself, we'll get it done. Nicole, we'll handle it. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we've got our structure in effect, so we can get to work now, correct?
Yep.
Okay, let's get to work then. Okay, Nicole, can you go down the list? I think you have a list of how you would want us to interview, or maybe not interview. This is a chat. We're going to chat.
Sure.
with,
It was just a recommendation to do it in order of submission, but it's
good.
It's flexible. We have, it looks like we have 3 of the 5 applicants here today, Scott Parsons, Lanita Mims, and Terry Dunn. But it's a small group, so it's flexible. So
Okay, well, I'm going to follow your lead. Who should we start with first?
technically, Scott would have been the first applicant,
All right, let's start with
and
Scott.
then Lanita, and then Terry.
Okay, Scott, Lanita, and Terry. Let me get your applications in front of me in that order. We have done so. And let's begin with Scott. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
Okay, and Scott, you don't have to be on mute. This will be informal. And why don't you begin with maybe just tell us briefly, we've had a chance to read the information that you submitted. By the way, it's impressive. Just chat with us for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it, the old elevator speech?
Okay. So, well, a little bit about myself. As you can see, I live in Moraga, pretty much grew up in the Lamarinda area. My dad and grandmother were both born in Oakland, dad in 1922 and my grandmother in 1889. So I have some Bay Area roots. Grew up, as I said, in Orinda, and a deputy sheriff impressed me and kind of got me headed toward law enforcement as a young kid. And I was an adrenaline junkie, so it was kind of an easy profession to relate to. So you saw in the documentation there, 40, and I'm just curious, is the background noise causing any problem for anyone? Because I do have, okay, doesn't sound like it. There's a vacuum going because I had a water break and some water damage being vacuumed up right now in the house. So great time.
I can hear you really well, so.
Okay, beautiful. So keeping it to the elevator ride, you can see 40 plus years of law enforcement, a lot of that at executive level, both at the county level in Contra Costa with the Office of the Sheriff, and then the last 12 years with the Federal Reserve System nationwide. And I had a federal law enforcement status there. So hold on for 1 second, because I need to have something redirect. So, okay, got that shut down. In any event, you know, I took an interest. Is that a part of this elevator? Because I just felt us land on the floor, and I'm probably talking too much. But you know, the interest that I have in a thing like this is I have operated on all sides of the justice system in my 40 plus years, and I feel, because of my work with foster youth and youth with at risk, I feel a connection to the mission of this cab and trying to help those that have been incarcerated to have the absolute best chance possible in reentry to having a good life. And so that's really it. Just at a raw level, I would like to be a part of the solution and a part of the answer to people being successful in reentry. Ding. We just got to the
ding. I like that ding. Oh, hey, You know what, hey, Scott, when you said you had to get up to change something and you said somebody was vacuuming, I thought you were going to join me. I'm doing the wash downstairs and you're going to vacuum. Now, hopefully, maybe some of the other members, they're going to be doing the dishes or something. So.
Yeah, well, it's close to that. The laundry room's right behind me and there's no door on this office, but nothing's running at the moment. How's that?
Okay, all right then. Let's go to any questions possibly. Kenya, do you have any questions for Scott?
Not at this time. Thank you for applying. And it's nice to meet you.
As well, nice to meet you, Kenya.
Thank you, Kenya. Mark, anything from your vantage point?
He sounds very experienced. I'm always looking at what we see as solutions we can promote or implement. What do you think in our county that some of the ideas, whether it's restorative justice or anything that we should focus on as a solution? What do you think is practical in our time?
Sure. I think there's been a double-edged sword to the professionalism in our justice system. Certainly in the number of years that I've been associated with it, I've seen it change and improve in many, many respects since 1975 when I first put on a badge. The downside is as this county grew and county government had to adjust to it, a lot of the organizations, whether it be probation or sheriff or public defender or the group of judges, we kind of grew separate from each other and almost to some degree competed against each other when in fact the end mission should be much the same. Public safety and the integration of incarcerated people back into society. And I think from a community outreach standpoint, I'd like to see law enforcement have a little bit more touch with those that are coming back into the system. So it's not a them and us. Law enforcement is to protect the safety of those inmates that become back into society as citizens. And what I've seen is, I guess we've seen it nationally, right? Over the last 3 years, that the standoff is kind of coming to an end. So from an outreach standpoint, I'd like to see law enforcement and those that have been incarcerated not be seen as opposite sides of the system, but in many respects, the same side, because indeed they are. Once you're back in society, you're a citizen like anyone else, and law enforcement is there to protect you. I think it's an area that we can do some work. I also think the system of bringing incarcerated people back into society, there are so many forces at play for a person that don't work to their advantage. And if we can concentrate on an integration of them back into society so they feel confidence, they feel pride, they are happy to be out and able to care for themselves, we're going to have a much better situation. And, just opening the door to a prison and having someone walk into society as it is can be pretty darn intimidating. So that's in kind of brief the two areas that I'd like to, if I was a part of this, like to be more of a part of.
Scott, thank you very much. Thank you. Dale, by chance, any questions from you or?
No, I'm very, very impressed with what you were saying, Scott. And it's that kind of attitude that is going to help the council move in a correct direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And any questions from any other individuals here from the public or individuals on the call? Any other questions? Or Scott? Okay, Scott, thank you very much. Now, I've got one.
Actually,
Oh,
Crawford, I had a question, and I'm sorry I didn't move fast enough.
got it. Patrice, please.
Oh, hi, Patrice.
Hi, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. So I heard you say, I also like the idea of thinking through what's the best way to bring into alignment, or at least diminishing this sort of adversarial existence, if you will, between the system, or the custodians of the system, right? And then those who are essentially subjected to be a part of that system, or impacted, I would say, impacted by that system. Can you talk about or share with us maybe some ideas you might have of what that might look like, given your number of years of experience in law enforcement? What do you see as some missed opportunities that both between system agents as well as the community, where we could sort of bridge that gap?
Sure. And I just had the opportunity to kind of tour our jail system about a year and a half ago. Obviously, it was one I had worked in as well, but there have been changes and I wanted to become more familiar. And I was impressed with a lot of what I saw at West County Detention, and actually at all three facilities, with how the Office of the Sheriff was adapting to the needs of inmates and those that are incarcerated. And I don't want to use a term there that may be offensive, but that was the term, inmates, at least when I worked there, right? So do I think we could do a better job of reentry by kind of demystifying certain aspects of the system before a person is released? And maybe there be a reentry orientation, just like there would be an orientation to this board, and to help those that have been incarcerated to have more faith in the system as they go back out. And local law enforcement is often not involved. The Office of the Sheriff has deputies working with those that are incarcerated, but your local law enforcement agencies, police departments, don't. And I think that we need to break some of these old models of the them and us enforcement of the bad guys, and see more of a relationship between an incarcerated person's reentry being successful working with law enforcement rather than adversarial. And I look back to my time on the street, and there were countless times where I was interacting with those that had been incarcerated. And because I had a positive relationship largely, it was helpful, it was positive, and I think it was affirming to that person that had been incarcerated. We can enhance that and have local law enforcement working with those that are about to be released, establish a relationship before it's on the street in an intimidating situation, and have some accountability also on law enforcement to achieve a positive relationship. So if I was going to be, let's say I'm doing time and I'm going to be released in 2 weeks, if there was an opportunity, if I'm going to go live wherever, let's say here in Moraga, that I have a chance to have a face-to-face meeting with someone with Moraga PD and start that relationship in something other than a suspicious circumstance or a call from someone, about something happening on the streets, have it be in a controlled atmosphere where the relationship can maybe get off to a better start. Does that have any appeal or make any sense?
No, it definitely makes sense. I hear you saying the importance of relationship building particularly for improving outcomes for those who were incarcerated, because that's often the situation. They're not always welcomed back home, right?
That's right.
And so if there's any way that our local institutions can reform themselves to be more of a welcoming, opening opportunity for folks to successfully reintegrate and not hold their prior history in being connected to the justice system as a marker of shame or
Absolutely.
a marker of not worthy of accessing any sort of support or opportunities as anyone that may not have directly been impacted by the justice system. So I hear you in that point, and I appreciate the balanced view that you're sharing, that it's imperative that there's accountability also on law enforcement's end to ensure that the relationship building happens in a very authentic way, understanding that, you know, the power dynamics are different, right? So it's imperative that our system actors are cognizant of that in its effort and in its intention to welcome folks home. So I appreciate your sentiments.
So to your point, Patrice, we would often in law enforcement get information of a person that was going to be released into our community. And it basically, there was a name and there were those violations that they were incarcerated for. That almost sets up the adversarial relationship from the very onset. And if we could have something other than just that, I think it could be really helpful for bridging what clearly needs bridging, right? I think we all agree.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Scott. And one final, at least from my vantage point, let's talk about money here a little bit.
Sure.
And where do you think funds would be best dispersed to assist an individual who is returning back to society?
Ooh, so where would funds be best spent returning into society? Well, it's just so clear that a person coming out having a job that's waiting for them, a job that they've been maybe trained in while they were incarcerated. So I would be glad to see my tax money go and your tax money go to helping incarcerated people have good paying jobs. So when they get out, they're feeling like they're contributing to society, and they are actually contributing in a way that helps them to be successful. So often unemployment is what they run into when they have to express the fact that, hey, I've been in jail for the last 6 months or 6 years. People are leery. And I think we also need to spend money on encouraging, particularly with the amount of employment that is out there right now, for employers to think creatively to help employ people that have been incarcerated. Right now, jobs are going unwanted, lots of them. Wouldn't that be great if our people that are coming out of the jail system and prisons could capitalize on that to a degree?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for this gentleman? Okay, well, Scott, thank you very much. You've been most informative.
Well, thank you. I'm going to go on mute, sir, and tell the vacuums to start running again.
Okay, you can do that.
Yeah.
And Scott, I'll turn on the washing machine.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay. All right. The next person we would like to chat with is Lanita. Good morning, Lanita.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. So, okay, so this for me is personal. And I'm going to share my personal story with you guys only because it matters, right? And so, so my name is Lanita Mims. I have 2 biological children and 2 adopted children. My baby turned 30 years old today. So I have a 30-year-old, a 33-year-old who is developmentally delayed and autistic. And I have a 35-year-old son who has 4 sons of his own. And I have a 37-year-old who has a husband, owns property, and has 2 children of her own. And for us, we have touched many of the systems in California. So I've touched the adoptive system because I have 2 adopted children. My oldest daughter I adopted when she was 12. My oldest son I adopted when he was 2. My husband is adopted. And so we've touched the adoptive system. We've also touched social services because my oldest son was a hell raiser, and he played sports, and he tore his Achilles in high school. And when he tore his Achilles, he decided to start hanging out with the people that he felt like were his family. And he became a person that was wreaking havoc on our family and on our community. And so he went to juvenile hall, and that's where my journey began. So I graduated from Oakland Tech High School in 1986, born and raised in Oakland, California. Spent most of my life in Oakland, moved to Oakley 15 years ago to give my family a different perspective on life. My husband of 30 years has been incarcerated 27 of the 30. He is a lifer. Hopefully he will be coming home in the next year or so. While my husband has been gone, my home was broken into and I was assaulted by someone we know. And so I have testified in court before. I work with an agency in Contra Costa County now. I work with an agency in Costa County now. I've been here for 4 years. February 18th actually will make 4 years. And I am the employment coordinator. So I help people with disabilities find jobs that are suitable for them. I now have 6 grand boys. And so one of my boys is now in trouble and touching the system. I went to college. I did not finish, but I did go to college, and my major was administrative justice and my minor was small business. So I am a small business owner. I've been in business since 2003. I have an event company where we throw all kinds of parties, anniversary parties, weddings, receptions, county festivals, Jazz on the Green. Some you may have heard of, some you may not. And I am I'm a person that is very involved in my community. So I sit on the Women's Commission as a commissioner and Contra Costa County Women's Commission. And I also sit on the Contra Costa County Arts Commission, which Don, I wish you would have been at that meeting last night.
Sorry, I'm not arts. I'm not arts.
Okay. I love my community. I love where I live. My family is still having some adjustment issues with where we are. So my oldest daughter bought a home in Sacramento. My oldest son just transitioned to Texas, which is way too far. My middle son is down in Oakland. So he spends half the week with my mom who lives in Oakland and half the week here in Oakley because there's nothing for him to do. So he says, which that is kind of true. And then my 30-year-old, my daughter, my baby girl, she is a school teacher in Pleasant Hill, and spends all her time in Oakland too. Like she's already planning not to come home tonight because she's gonna be down there because there's nothing to do. And so what I find is because there is nothing to do, these young people get in trouble. They find alternative things to do. And they may not be good things, but they do. They find alternative things to do. And so now I find my 20-year-old grandson facing some time because he committed a commercial robbery with 3 of his friends. And it's ridiculous. If he didn't have all this free time, he probably would be enhanced with something else. I don't know. But anyway, back to me. So I'm here because I really want to be involved. I have a network of things that I'm involved in. Like I helped with getting the petition ban a box on a ballot. I've helped with Prop 57. I helped with the newest bill, AB 775, which is amazing. So we'll see a lot of different changes coming real soon. I also sit on the IFC committee for the prison where my husband is, which is the Inmate Family Council. And so I have a host of women who live in Contra Costa County and Solano County who have husbands who live behind the wall. And I do a monthly support group with them, teaching them how to write the petitions, teaching them how to go in front of the DAs and talk about who their husbands are today. And so I have a connection with District Attorney Beckham. I have a connection with the District Attorney of Alameda County, Nancy O'Malley. Not that I know them personally, but I can send them an email or call them up. So I'm really interested in seeing the change, and I'm really interested in my family making the change and people noticing like, oh, wow, that family has led in some of this change making. And so I've worked very hard over the last 20 years trying to make sure that I stand out in the community in the best way as a Black woman. And that's who I am.
Lanita, thank you so very, very much. What a story.
Yeah.
What a
They keep
story.
telling me I need to write a book.
Well, hey, you know what, Lanita? We won't call that a story. We're going to call that a journey for you. And it's, hey, you're still on that journey, which is good, yeah. Which is good. Let's go to Mark. Do you have any questions for Lanita?
Well, she covered a lot. She has a lot of experience also. I'm always looking at problems and solutions. I know you mentioned one possibility that a lot of youth don't have something to do. What do you see as something that could be possibly advocated or done to help solve that problem?
Well, there's a few things that I'm thinking about. One is just to open up the skating rink back up in San Ramon. That's the first one, right? Young people love to skate. I'm a skater and I would take all of them skating. So one is just open back up the skating rink. Two is to really get involved with them at the high school level and do that work ability program, not for just special ed kids, but for every child. They should all have a chance to do workability, right? And so I think that if we start to train them younger, everybody is not going to go to college. Everybody doesn't want to go to college. And so I believe that if we start training them younger and we start at the 9th grade level and do offer some workability resources, that could also actually help as well. And then the third thing is training the parents on how to kind of take care of their kids in a different manner, right? So not parenting, not parenting classes, not parenting workshop. That didn't work for me. So I know it probably won't work in this day for a lot of people because their kids are just, you know, doing what they do. But at the same time, teaching parents how to give their kids other opportunities, how to create opportunities. One of the things I did for my son was when he got to 9th grade, I had a friend who owned a car wash. I paid half his salary, the car wash paid half his salary. And I know a lot of parents can't afford to do things like that. But if we start thinking outside of the box and teaching parents how to think outside of the box, it would probably resolve a lot of the issues that the young people are having nowadays, right? And I'm talking about specifically for my family as well. Had my grandson been able to go home and have a conversation with his mother about what was going on with him, he might have had a different outcome with this situation we face with now, you know? And so being able to teach parents how to just to communicate with their kids and not always that is my way or no way because I'm the mama or I'm the daddy, right? It's not always about your way. And so that's what I teach some of the ladies in the workshops are, it's not always about your way. You got to hear these kids. These kids are different from when I was raising kids and my baby is 30. So it's different. It's way different now. And so we gotta transcend with the population now. Like we gotta change our way of doing things. If we want the young people to hear us, we gotta change our way of doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, great question, Mark. Wow.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah.
I
You sure you don't want to leave this committee, Mark? You sure, Mark? Just, hey, I'm just kidding you, Mark. Okay, Nakenya, any question from you, Nakenya?
Yes, hello. Thank you for sharing your story. That was a lot of information. And have you ever volunteered on any of these types of committees before?
So not the actual CAB, but I do volunteer on the Participatory Defense Committee here in Contra Costa County. Actually, they found me. They called me and asked me to be a part of it because my husband is a lifer. And I actually got right involved. They told my story and then started working. So that one, and then the other one that I am involved with is there's an 1170 D1, which is a penal code. There's a committee for there with the Ella Baker Center, and they're trying to change the way that Alameda County, Contra Costa County, and Solano County look at crime when it comes to enhancements. And so I volunteer with them as well.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from anybody else that's on the call? We'll open it up to the public.
This is Dale. I don't have a question, but I have a couple of comments. Lenita, your background and your experiences provides you with a unique understanding and appreciation of the need for support services. And that is so important for the board. And it's so important for the community to understand that. And you can educate a lot of us in that regard. And then also, you've mentioned in response to Mark, you mentioned 2 areas where you have volunteered, and sharing the value of doing that kind of thing also will be so helpful for all of us on the board, but as well as the community at large. So I commend you and I thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Lanita,
Yes, Doctor.
I guess you're stuck. Oh, wait a minute. Are there any other questions before you're stuck with me here?
I see
Okay.
Patrice's hand is up.
Oh,
Patrice?
again, I can't see the cue. Patrice, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And Lanita, I echo the same comments that were said earlier. Wow, your story is so amazing, and thank you for sharing all of the intricacies, right? Both the ways in which you and your family have been impacted, and then the ways in which you still show such resilience beyond that, to be involved and to help inform how changes should be led. So thank you so much for leading from that place in that space. I actually have two questions for you. So the first one is, I'm curious to know how you learned about CAB. And then secondly, what I was most struck by is the work you're doing with regards to families of incarcerated people. And so I'd like to know from your vantage point, what would you like to see be supported or in any kind of capacity here within our county with regards to having more of a family-centered approach for those who are impacted by the justice system. I'd say presently a lot of the services that are provided, a lot of it is really individualized, right? It's to that one individual, and we kind of miss the opportunity, though we are funding a family reunification effort. That's one, effort that's taking place. So to your point about thinking outside the box, things like that, what would you like to see or how innovative could we be around supporting families who are impacted by the justice system?
Okay. So I found out about CAB because Diane Burgess's office sends out a newsletter. I'm not sure how often it comes out, but I know I read it probably every time it comes out, and there's a couple of them. So I found out about it that way. It was in the news. It was in the newsletter as, hey, anybody want to serve on this committee? And the reason I said, oh my God, that's for me, is because in all of the other advisory boards, commissions, or committees, there is not one like this. And so, yes, I know you heard all of the things that I do, but I have begun to prioritize what's important. And if I am selected to become a part of this committee, I have 3 that I'm going to resign from so that I can give this some time, because this is important. This is my family. This CAB situation had me all over it. And so I really, I'm a spiritual person too. I'm a spiritual woman as well. So I went to God and said, you know what? Thank you, because you just gave me somewhere that I fit. I don't feel like I fit in some of the other committees that I sit on because of my background, right? Because of who I am, because of who my family is, because of the challenges that we're facing and have faced and have overcome. Sometimes I don't feel like I fit. Right here, I feel like I fit. And so when I read everything too. So once it gave you the link to the website, I went to the website, I read the mission, I read the duties, I read about all the different committees. So I know where I want to go. Right? Although I'm having a second thought right now about which committee, but I know where I want to be. So I hope that answered your question for that. The second question, your part 2, your number 2, is I'm not absolutely sure yet of where and how, because I haven't like put all of that into my mind, and I'm a process thinker, right? So when you throw something at me, I need some time to think about it and analyze it and then come back with oh, and by the way, this, right? But for the most part, I think it's a lot of need. It's a lot of need. And if we can just allocate some of our resources to some of the needs, like the different programs. I know I read in the paperwork where you guys give money to Fast Eddies. Well, that's my mechanic. But he also is going to give my husband an opportunity to join his internship that he does for people on parole. Things like that, right? Everyday people digging in is what I'm hoping to be able to help out with, like the outreach part. That's why I said I'm thinking secondly about where I want to go as a committee, because on the outreach part, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of business owners. I belong to 3 different chambers, and business owners would definitely give people who live behind the wall who are reunifying a piece of the pie. Like they would definitely lift a hand and lift up, you know. And so I think that that's important to me. As far as the women's stuff that I do with some of the wives, that's a struggle too, because most of the time I open up my home, well, due to COVID, we've been doing Zoom stuff, right? I open up my home, but there's no other place. I have searched this county high and low to figure out who could support me in what I'm going through. And there is no place. There's no one place that can say, okay, come over here. Yeah, we got this going on, right? So if we could also give some resources to the people in the community that are supporting each other, and not, you know, give it to some agency over here that is going to take the money, and then you go to the agency and they don't even have the support that you actually need, but then they reporting back to people like you guys saying, oh yeah, we did this many, we served this many people, and I went there and it wasn't even open. So it's like bringing the resources closer to the community on the ground, the people that's in the trenches, right? Bringing that dollar to the people that's in the trenches is important to me. Helping people who are coming home, right? Men and women, helping them who are coming home. The first thing they're gonna need is a cell phone and a laptop or an iPad or a tablet. That's what they're gonna need, right? So let's put some money into that so that they can get in touch with the people that they need to see. So they can call over to their parole officer, or they can go online and book an appointment at the DMV instead of having to stand at the DMV for 2.5 hours waiting on a place to get an ID, because everybody's gonna be required to have an ID, and no one is giving the inmates the ID coming out. And that's one of the laws that passed. And you're supposed to have your California ID 30 days before you hit the streets. It ain't happening. So things like that. I'm more of a practical person and an everyday kind of person. I can do the big vision, I can see it, but I'd rather be in the trenches, down on the ground level, boots on ground, to help the people get what they need. If that makes sense.
Anita, thank you very much. We're going to have kind of a time constraint, so why don't we approach this? I think, first of all, listening to each of you is important, and we don't ever want to cut off that type of conversation, because this is what it's all about. So we're going to postpone. We're going to item number 6 on our agenda. We'll put that off to the next meeting. But more important, we do want to continue with, are there any other questions for Lenita? I know I had one quick question for you, and then after that, we will go to Terry, and apologize for having you to wait so long, Terry, but we want to give everybody we want to give everybody a fair shot at discussion. And my one question for you, and hopefully it'll be a short answer here,
Okay.
and I'll pose it so it will be. How would you prioritize housing, employment, and mental health for a returning citizen? Those 3, let me repeat. housing, employment, and mental health. How would you prioritize those three?
So we must be on the same page because I have housing as number 1, employment as number 2, and I have resources, including mental health, as number 3.
I'll be darned. Okay, well, what is it? Welcome to the queue. We got you. And just a minute, I got to write them down in that order. And services, mental health. Okay, good. All right. Unless there are any other questions, we would love to move on to the next individual who has been very patient, Terry Dunn. But before we move, any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, Lenita, thank you, thank you. You know what? After talking, with you, talking with Scott, hey, we need to have a cup of coffee. It's nice doing all these Zoom calls, but we need to figure out a way to get around a coffee machine, and then we can get some real work done. Okay. Again, thank you. Let's move now. Terry, we're not going to hold this particular conversation off. So if we go a few minutes beyond the designated time that we are supposed to end, please stay with us. Please be patient, because we're going to give you the same amount of time and courtesy we gave everybody else. So,
thank you.
So, okay, Terry, you're on the elevator. You're talking to Dale Harrington. What are you going to tell him?
Well, the first thing is I'm delighted to follow Lenita, and I'm ready to follow her for the next 10 years. So I'm good. Yeah, so as far as my background, I've spent over 20 years as an educator in Title I schools, worked in Bay Point, Pittsburgh, Newark, Richmond. I'm semi-retired. I was an elementary principal for 8 years, mostly, and the other administrative work I did was at continuation high schools, including Olympic and Concord. I was there for a year, working with their mental health program for kids who had profound issues, many of whom were justice involved. And mostly I was a middle school and high school math and science teacher. And now I'm, I guess I'm a small business owner. I sit here at this desk and do tutoring. So this is my business right here. I do that part-time. And part of why I made the trip, there's many reasons that I semi-retired. One is I moved my mom out here from New Jersey. She lives with us. I wanted to have more flexibility in my life to be able to respond and get myself involved with things that are going on. When I took on the principalship at the schools, I thought I'd teach forever, and then I got invited to administration, and I felt, well, I can help the teachers so they can help more kids. And then we got to a point, I'll say in the last presidency, where I felt like I was trapped in my office and I could do more in other areas of the community, speaking at different council meetings and serving on committees like this. So things that I'm involved with now, I'm a member of the board of the Adaptive Learning Center in Concord, which supports adult living for young folks with autism and developmental disabilities. So I see Lenita clapping. We'll be talking about finding jobs. That's a big part of their thing. And so I do that. I'm on the council of the church I attend in Oakland, Plymouth Jazz and Justice Church. And one of the things I do there is I facilitate, we're doing a reparations reflection, talking about all these issues that are going on. We have 4 committees working together on that. And so I facilitate a group called Reimagining Public Safety. So, of course, the first thing that came up is police response in mental health situations. And so like the work that's happening here through the Miles Hall Foundation and mental health emergency response teams is something that really is important to me. But in working with this Reimagining Public Safety group, we've really started to recognize the interconnection of so many issues, underlying all that: public health, mental health, incarceration, the justice system. And so we're just a group of individuals working on those in the places that we feel led, those issues in the places where we feel led. Because, as Lenita said, well, for me, this is a spiritual process too, of discernment of, where am I needed? Where can I be of service? Not that I'm here to rescue anybody, but I could do some work. And so this year and a half since I retired, it's been an interesting process. Just seeing places that seem really interesting, but wow, that door didn't open. I guess I'm not supposed to be there, and I honestly can't remember exactly how I found out about CAB, but I'm grateful that I did. I don't know if it was on one of the mailing lists. I don't know. All I know is every interaction I've had, I have just felt like this door opening. So I'll say that. Another thing that I've gotten involved with, again, as an extension through church, is Faith in Action East Bay. They have groups called Belong Circles, where 10 of us got to know each other and who weren't connected before. And it turned out that one of us has a small nonprofit in Richmond. So I've ended up working with issues around the unhoused has become a significant issue for me. We're working specifically in support of a group that's living in vehicles on Ryden Road in Richmond, and the city's trying to sweep them out. And it's been an interesting process learning about all the both the social service groups and the political actions and dysfunctions. So anyway, all of that is to say that another area of focus for me is all the things that lead to folks being unhoused, many of whom have had legal issues and addiction issues and mental health issues and just straight up economic issues. So underlying all that, from when I was first working in, all the years in schools, I've seen the effects of trauma on kids and families, and the effects of mental health issues, and the effects when there's a family member who's incarcerated, or a teenager has an ankle monitor, and is justice involved, and so anyway, it turned out in my education and when I work as a principal, a lot of what I was doing was really responding to the kids who were in crisis. I just trusted my teachers to teach, and I probably ended up as more of a social worker than an educator. But the basic thing is I'm trying to be aware of what's going on and where I can be of service. Because the church I attend is in Oakland, there are other members who have been successfully involved in setting up programs to make sure that those coming out of prison have the services in place, have the ID, have their Medicare reestablished before they're released. So I have folks that I can talk with about how they were successfully able to do that in Alameda County. Because we have to make sure it happens here in Contra Costa. So, ding. I think I'm at this 87th floor. I'm in the Empire State Building, I think. But it's time to get off and enjoy the view.
Hey, Terry, that is more than 5.
Okay.
As you said, ding.
It's more than something. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, can we move first now? Let me see, we did Mark the last. Okay, so that'll be Nakenya. Any questions, Nakenya, for Terry?
No, not at this time. Thank you for applying, and it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you very much.
And Mark, any questions of you, sir, for Terry?
Well, if you'd like to answer the one I've asked before, what's one of your favorite problems and solutions to it?
I'm just bouncing around the words favorite problems.
Well, yeah, I'll just
I know
that's
I know
an outstanding one.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I would say an area of focus and concern is mental health and how that impacts individuals and impacts communities. So for me, even though I recognize the essential nature of housing and employment, I feel like folks' transitions really need a lot of mental health work, both healing time while they're incarcerated and transitional mental health supports. Because, everybody's going through a lot, period, and going through a lot in transition is just even more profound. And so for me, a cornerstone thing is making sure folks have access to counseling, therapy, groups, so they can process their stuff so it's not showing up in other ways.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
And thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Oh, wait a minute, Dale. Anything from you? Dale?
I don't have any questions, but I have some comments. And
Okay.
The first comment I'll start out with is a lighthearted one. Because of your because you were able to endure junior high school students, you could get along really well with Crawford.
Oh, wow.
But now on a serious vein,
Okay.
I am so impressed with the breadth of both the interest and experience that you have. Those two combined are really a powerful pair. Also, I loved your comment about be of service. That is so important. And it's obvious on all of your years of work that has been a key for you. And then you had commented on you weren't quite sure how you got introduced to CAB. Based on your religious background, I can tell you, I think that God brought you here.
Works for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, before we go on,
Patrice has hand up too.
Yeah.
Just want to let you know.
Who does?
Patrice's hand up as well.
Oh, Patrice. Go. Oh, no, wait a minute. Before we get to you, Patrice, one quick second. Now, doggone it, Dale, how did you know that the principal, they knew me in grade school? The principal, the principal, whenever something happened in grade school, I think his first thought was, I wonder where Crawford was when that happened. So, hey, Dale, you nailed it.
Well, I didn't have to attend too many meetings on CAB to come to that conclusion. You are so transparent.
Okay, Patrice.
You know, I wasn't expecting much of a comedy show early this morning, but I really appreciate it. Terry,
Yes.
again, very impressive. And one thing that struck me in your intro is speaking about healing and the importance of that. And that doesn't get discussed quite often in some of these spaces, especially when we're talking about justice system reform. We typically just look at system operations, how they can change, and then the types of services or resources we need out there to support folks who are coming home. So sometimes it gives a feeling of just sort of it's transactional than it is relationship building. So from your vantage point and from the work that you've done, what is the best way to introduce some conversations around healing or being healing centered, and why that's important for those who are impacted by the justice system?
Could you clarify introducing those conversations where or with whom?
Well, let's just use through CAB, for example. CAB puts together its policy briefs, it does outreach to the community and introduces what work that they do. They speak before CCP and PPC, all these various formal spaces, right? Where oftentimes the discussion around, or introducing, I'll say it that way, introducing a conversation around healing and how that can be applied doesn't always happen. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I'm hoping to be able to join the Programs and Services Committee, which, my impression from the retreat was that that's where a lot of that work will get expressed. And so when I talk about these types of interactions, it's not to dismiss the importance of employment and housing. For me, those are like baseline, but the healing's not talked about enough. So I would just make sure that in addition to supporting the housing and the employment, that we're also talking about that it's not forgotten, that it has a position in the line of programs and the line of funding, and that we're building partnerships with, that we're steering the money and the energy to groups that are effective. So, because I've seen a lot of programs and a lot of dollars, that come with a lot of hype and a beautiful website, and frankly not have an impact. So, so along with growing understanding, I'm also going to have an eye on effectiveness. And as an educator and a hobby writer, I would just work on communication. Did that answer your question? I feel like.
No, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, good job.
Are there any other comments from anybody else that's on the call? I don't see any. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, please.
I would like to comment briefly. So, Terry, I work for Adaptive Learning Center, number one. And number two, I just really appreciate you for being here. I really think that
thank you.
If I can say, I don't even know if I should say this, but if the CAB advisory committee chose you, they would be making an awesome decision.
Thank you, Lenina, and same with you. So let's get there, right? Otherwise, we need to go form our own committee, if they can.
No, don't worry. You don't need to go.
Hey, no more work for me, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, hey, thank you, Lenita. Any other comments, observations, etc.? And I've got, wait a minute, are there any on my queue? I don't see any hands. Am I missing any by chance, Nicole?
No
Okay.
hands.
Oh, wait a minute, Terry.
Wait.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to take a second to also say that I'm really glad Scott's here, because you have an experience and a voice and a heart and a perspective that's needed, and you can be a bridge builder to so much that needs to happen.
Very, very kind of you. I feel privileged to be in the company of everyone on this call. So regardless of how it all washes out, I feel like hey, this was a good day.
There you go.
Yeah, I felt the same thing, Scott, with all your experience. Like, that's amazing work that you've done as well. And I hope that we all get a chance to work together.
That'd be great. I would
Yeah.
like that.
So as you can see, we're all really obnoxious and hard to get along with. So, you'd be wise to block us if you can.
Hey, well, no problem. Well, one final question, and then we're going to go to consideration here for the various candidates here. What would be your guidance to provide to an individual who is preparing for reentry into society?
I don't feel it's my place to give that advice.
Okay.
I have not lived that experience. So I wouldn't give advice.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, and etc. We've got 3 applicants here. Is there any discussion, any further discussion before I would like to propose that we move forward? Pardon me. Is there any further discussion first on the 3 applicants that we have listened to? Okay, if there is not further discussion, I would like to propose that we move the names of Lanita Mims, Scott Parsons, and Terry Dunn. None of you are getting out of this. All 3 of your names, we'd like to move those names to the full board for consideration as either a member or an alternate member of CAB.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Might you take a vote for us, please, or roll call, Nicole?
Is there any public comment? I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, fine.
Okay. All right, Crawford.
No, I'm just kidding.
What?
Yes. No, I'm kidding. Aye.
Mark.
Yes.
Nakenya.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, to all 3 of you, hey, this has probably been, I've been on a few of these, Nakenya has, Mark, and by George, what a group, what a way to start the morning. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. We are going to submit your names to the full board for consideration to CAB as a permanent member or as an alternate. And by the way, I started as an alternate, and I was an alternate for what, maybe a cup of coffee. And after that, I was a permanent member. So don't worry about being an alternate. Don't worry about being a permanent member. Once you get on there as either an alternate or as a full CAB member, pardon my terminology here, we'll be ready to boogie. So I think we should be in pretty good shape. But again, thank you very much for all of us, from all of us. And I guess that's it. Is there anything else we need to do prior to concluding here, Nicole or Patrice?
I would just entertain that we just confirm that this recurring schedule works for
Yes.
Nakenya, yourself, and Mark, which is the 3rd Tuesday of every month, 10 a.m. to 11:30.
I'm wondering, was there a reason collectively why we couldn't make the meeting around 11? I think that was one of my questions last year as well.
Mark?
Well, I could work with that. 10 works also, but we could,
There's a suggestion 11 to 12:30 p.m.
I'll go along with whatever the group, because remember, I'm only temporary. I will. So however we move this around, whatever the group feels best fits their situation for the next, at least the next meeting and the following meeting, I'll be more than glad to, if that time frame works better and everybody will be able to attend, then that's fine.
Yeah, that's obviously if everybody's able to attend, of course.
Okay.
If not, then we can stay at 10.
Okay, well, do we want to move it to 11? I mean, Nicole, how do we do this? Are we?
We don't vote on it. It's just a consensus. So we can try 11 to 12:30 p.m.
Yes, okay, why don't we do that?
And that will be the schedule. I will update the calendar invite to reflect that and our future agendas.
Thank you very much. Next, excuse me, go ahead.
But it's still the third Tuesday, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, and next steps, we have to review our work plan and possibly we had 2 other individuals that had applied. Hopefully they will be able to join us at our next meeting, or if we decide to have a special meeting, I'm willing to do that because we need to get everybody on board and in queue for this committee, and so that we're, fulfilling our functions. So without that, without further ado, we can adjourn this meeting. I don't have a watch in front of me. What time is it?
11:42.
At 11:42 then, this meeting is adjourned, and thank you very much for all of you that attended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.